All right, guys, time for another indicator lesson. We are going to go over the TTM, and this is going to be the TTM Squeeze, think or swim indicator. No changes made one bit. This is our third and final lower indicator I'll be going over as another oscillation tool. So wave height for oscillation and squeeze on the red dot. That's why they call it the TTM Squeeze. It's a predictive squeeze potential. Of course, nothing works 100% in the market. Definitely not indicators. So let's get into it. Now we'll start with yesterday in pre-market here. Bam. So let me back up a little bit more here. Get my big dumb face out of the way. There we go. So yesterday is pre-market extravaganza here. So first, we're going to take a look at the oscillations wave heights. The wave heights matter. And this indicator is pretty simple, and it is very close to the MACD that we just did. So I'm going to go over this one relatively fast. The only two things I use the TTM squeeze for is the red dots for potential squeeze and how high the oscillation waves are, right, into positive and negative territory, because we care about 50% of everything. So if we call this the zero line, we still have a negative and a positive above and below, and we stack all of these indicators. So the other videos on the RSI and the MACD that you're going to want to check out, stack with the TTM, and the next video will show you how to use all three at once, which obviously they're just working together. So let's look at TTM here. Yesterday's pre-market, okay? We have the height of the waves. So no squeeze, a little bit of a dip in the morning, okay? We have some pretty good seller waves. So what I like to do is measure these if I can. So I'll come in and I'll hover over the indicator and I'll look to the top left corner of the indicator and look for how tall this wave was. Negative 28.6 about, okay? So we have a sell wave that's negative 26.8. Now the wave height there, we need to assume, obviously, when that is getting beat out by the next wave, that there are buyers in control. So sellers in control here, buyers moving in. So we see right about here, 315 oscillation. So halfway through this wave of the buyer side right here, we are beating out the prior sell wave. So that sell wave was heavy and decent. So between this small buy wave, this seller was bigger. But by the time we got our new wave after 3:15 in the morning central here, we had a beat to the buyer side. This is saying that buyers are now in control. Okay. So buyers are in control. Oscillation heavy. Now we have a trend set, right? So you have the price action going up, higher lows and higher highs, right? And if we look at the TTM wave, which we're going to do this really quickly because it's really simple, you notice the height of these waves. Look at the sell wave. Smaller, right? Bigger buy wave. Smaller sell wave. Bigger buy wave. What's that tell you? Trend and oscillation are on deck for uptrend. The buy waves are bigger than the sell waves. It's very that easy for oscillation. Now, when we come, there we go, to some data points. We had some data yesterday pre-market, and this is pre-Biden speech, of course, for the debt ceiling. So we did get some little awkward moves, but let's take a peek at the opening range, because this one's going to be pretty quick. This is, again, the 1 minute time frame, of course. So the TTM oscillation waves. Now, there's a couple different instances that say, not buying the top here and waiting for that dip to rip was our big want for the day. So when we come into today, we have this huge squeeze, no breakouts. We had a lot of red dots here, which signals potential squeeze. We had a ton of oscillation, and that tells you that we are kind of at the peak, right, of the buying wave oscillation. So when the wave is super big like this and they're putting in these big tops, your mindset goes, well, should I be buying into an extension of a TTM wave? Probably not. So if we're looking at these big tops right here along the lines of these very large TTM top waves, because they don't go too much higher, that 50-60 range is a lot for this one. So positive 50-60, negative 50-60 from the zero line. So positive above, negative obviously below. So when we see the big dip here, this is where it starts to get a little interesting here out of the gate, because we don't have too much confirmation until about 9:55 on trend of wave, okay? So if we move it into lower in the day, we have the big sell wave here. Now that's a tall mother trucker. So if you go back on the buyer wave though, an oscillation, we're going to measure the top of that pre-market wave, 57.4, second wave, 55.8. And right here we have 65.6, right? So that's a beat. So this sell wave is larger than this buy wave. So at the peak and bottom of this, now we could still play this. It's not all about wave height. I kind of lied. It is about the squeeze, wave height, and oscillation. So what this means is the buyers from the light blue are heavy. So buyers up, buyers on the dark blue on the way down right here. Oh, my big fat face in the way again. Bam. So the light blue, buyers in, dark blue, buyers stepping away. Buyers in, buyers stepping away on the dark blue. Okay. Same with the red. Sellers stepping in, heavy red. Sellers stepping aside, yellow. Okay. So that's the oscillation meaning for me. And this is how I use it. So when I start to see a big dark wave start to tip over, right? And obviously the wave height is what we want to pay attention to. So the first buy wave here in pre-market, that big one at 8:07 Central, 57.74. What's the height of the second buy wave? 55.8. This buy wave right here, smaller than the bigger buy wave behind it, okay? The seller wave beat out both of those. So that tells us the weaker buy wave right at open. So we draw that line up here. This was going to be a short signal and or oscillation potential down, right? Buyers stepping aside. Buyers are not going to come in and start buying the top, especially of a lower high TTM wave, right? So oscillation down. So sellers started, broke in, and inversely of the first, I think we covered this buy wave again, 55.8. When did 55.8 get beaten? Right here, 8:53. So about halfway through that sell wave, we took out that buyer wave. Okay, so sellers in control. Sellers all the way back down. Does that mean we can't make a trade? Nope, we can still make a trade with sellers in control, trying to find a bottom. And that's where oscillation kicks in, an indecision in the TTM. So you see this heavy sell wave come down, okay? And then you start to see sellers step aside. This is going, okay, well, this is indecision. You get a red bar in the midst of yellow, or red, yellow, red, yellow. That is the TTM being indecisive on one of the sides, and usually means a reversal is more probable, okay? So a reversal from the low of this price action, because the TTM is stepping back, okay? Sellers are stepping aside, and we have indecision here. Now, can we time this? Well, of course. If we have a big extension to that downside, we start to see sellers step aside here, we would assume a long potential back to the upside. Now, again, with most other indicators, it's going to be from that negative 40 to 0, right? So negative 40 to 0. That's about that trade, okay? So again, these oscillations are all very similar, but we like to stack these together and utilize them together to make a healthy trade. Let's talk about that confirmation after the Biden, okay? So we got beat out here, sell wave. We had a nice little retrace, and then we went to consolidation. Now, noticeably, we had a decent buy wave set to a small sell wave, okay? So now it starts to get a little bit more interesting. Okay, our buyers stepping back into control. Besides the Biden chat that messed up the algo as it goes up and down, we have buyers slowly stepping in, okay? This is a small sell wave. This buy wave beats it out, okay? Then we have a small buy, sell wave beats it out. But what does that have to do with this? Nothing, unfortunately, because the indicators get messed up when the algos go crazy, okay? So the confirmation is further weighting into the breakout. And we said on this day today, I scalped this long move because Biden, there's no way he could have said something negative about the debt ceiling. No way. So this pop, and this was to a 200 moving average at the time out, and we caught that one, and then we bought this and made another 25 to 29 points to the upside. And this right here is the extra confirmation. So look at this buy wave, right? So we're coming from the Biden dump and the recovery to consolidation. Look at this consolidation, okay? That consolidation, when we look down to the left, or look down to the TTM, we see massive buy wave, small sell wave, okay? Buy wave, buyers are in control. Buyers are in control coming into this consolidation. Does that make sense? High wave, right? Now look at this interesting little move. Before the breakout, we're waiting for the moving averages to catch back up, so on and so forth. TTM squeeze, red dots, okay? So some indecision on the wave. It's kind of breaking up, breaking down, but inevitably we do have the TTM red dot squeeze ready to rock and roll here. So that squeeze and oscillation started right on that breakout. So the squeeze potential was here. And then that oscillation right as it started breaking up was telling us that a potential squeeze was coming from the red dots. Buyers were already in control because of the large buy wave. And we had a potential breakout continuation. Now, this is kind of a given in our book because we said that this was going to hike its way back up to the unfilled gap at 415. And that's the oscillation key right there for the TTM squeeze. Okay, let's look in today. Go a little quicker because this is just another oscillation tool. here and here. Let's get to the transparent, and boom. So another key oscillation tool here. Now, we had buy wave, sell wave takeover here. We had some sell waves start to beat out priors right here. So here's a tiny buy wave in pre. Oh, fat head the way. Zoop. We move it. Oh, drawing tools on. Scooch over. Small buy waves here. Bigger sell waves, okay? Sell waves beat out. Down to the negative side. Now we are trending down from this point on. And this turnaround, we are downsided, okay? So downside TTM, doing nothing but increasing the sell wave. Every time the TTM wave came back to zero, we got a heavier wave, okay? So that means obvious downtrend. We got some moving average crosses, 50 through the 100. VWAP is the purple dash there. We're underneath. We're stacking those catalysts. But most importantly, TTM there. So we had that nice pull down pre-market. Now let's talk about the early morning. Now we had a 415 prior gap fill that needed to happen, and we have an over under here. So what does this over under do for us? Well, we see the oscillation kick back around right in the gap zone. So let's take a look at the TTM. Large sell wave, okay, finally get some relief to the buy side. Gives us a little push. Where's the confirmation? Small sell wave. Right at the open. Big oscillation buy, small sell, big oscillation buy. Buyers are starting to take control inside the 415 gap, right? What do we see here again? TTM squeeze potential. Red dots, small sell wave, small sell wave. So this whole consolidation, the 415 is leaning to the squeeze side, okay? Leaning to the squeeze side. TTM squeeze for the red dot potential. So whenever you see the red dots is a squeeze potential. So if we take our cursor and hover over that, we started getting that red dot at 833, right here before the first squeeze. Boom, came back down. Second squeeze, 852, right here. Squeeze potential. Small sell wave, squeeze potential. Sellers stepping aside. And then by the time the buyers were beat right here, up, and away for another whole run where buyers are in control. So again, these work on all systems. Let's look for a reversal back out here. Let's look at another consolidation zone because I did catch this one late in the afternoon. Let's take a peek at this consolidation zone, right? Heavy TTM beat. This was the fail right here from the 4,200 futes and rocked itself down. And that was our first resistance tag of the day we called on the Feudy boys. Now, this moved down into consolidation. Now look at the TTM, right? We had small sell wave, continuation squeeze, smaller sell wave, and then just a huge abrupt price level hit because indicators are never 100%. We hit a very big psychological number here for the Futes, 4,200, and dumped her, right? Because that was a big one that we were looking at for resistance, and that pulled very nicely. Now, in the midst of the TTM squeeze, let's take a look at the red dots. Squeeze potential coming in. Sellers stepping aside. Okay, wave heights we're not going to worry about too much because that is a very big algo sell and that is a very hard move. So something this abrupt on the chart, the wave heights to the sell side here because it was a panic down, more of an algo controlled. That wave is not going to take my attention. I'm going to wait for the selling wave to dissipate. Sellers step aside. I'm going to wait to see some TTM squeeze potential and then the oscillation starts. So this whole oscillation was squeeze dependent, heavy, right? And then looking for that momentum up. So push, and lo and behold, we squeezed, okay? TTM squeeze, we got volume beats stacking in here. We got nice big buyer wicks here. A lot of different confirmations that told us that we were going to get a little head start back up. And TTM was there as well. Let's look at one last little end of the day perfection, because this is the last example, and I'm glad all these are in one day, is the no wave continuation. The no wave continuation. So when we got outside of this, now, something to keep in mind that price action is going to lie to you a lot of the time. Indicators are not. Indicators are the divergence of price action. See this sell wave? This is what I'm talking about. You don't because my fat head's in the way. Zoop. There we go. See this sell wave right here? Heavy, okay? Look to your right. 40, 50, 60 sometimes is huge. When I see something that far down there, that sucker's like 80, yeah, damn near 80. That is a massive sell wave, okay? And this sell wave right here, although the price action is lower, the wave is smaller than its predecessor, okay? So this huge monstrous wave put in a nasty low on the TTM, big one. So by the time the next sell wave came, this low, it was that extension. It couldn't go any lower. The indicators are maxed out, right? Well, could it? Sure, anything can happen. But it had a very hard time struggling much lower than this. Now, that big wave, the next time I seen a sell wave come on, I seen this sell wave was smaller than the prior. So the price action was lying to me where the lower low was coming in. Not really lying, but just the oscillation attempt going lower. That's a key thought process you got to have to go, okay, well, this attempted sell is not as aggressive as the last, so we could actually squeeze back up and over coming into power hour and late day. So what'd you see? Well, we had the 2618, which we had mentioned in our prediction videos. Check these out. This is a huge over-under level of support. It came down into, chopped it for a little bit, found regression trend, and then TTM squeeze. Pow, red dots, okay? Moving along. No sell FOMO continuation. These are where short squeezes happen. Notice the buy waves. Where are the sell waves? There are none. This is perfect squeeze, FOMO, short squeeze trend, okay? Look at that, nasty. Every single time the oscillation came back down to zero, no wave, no wave, no wave. And this is obviously seller. And then finally, after I was getting some selling, she's still not dropping, right? So very, very interesting to see where when you get no sells, where everything is just FOMO, MOMO. That is something to keep in mind because that is a trend on the TTM. And you can match those TTM squeeze potentials with we are going to squeeze higher, squeezed up. We are going to squeeze higher, squeezed up. No more squeezes, but oscillation is there to that upside, and so on and so forth. Hope that makes sense on TTM. It's a quick lesson on how we use it. Oscillation, waves, zeros, TTM squeeze. Now, next video, we're going to stack the MACD, the RSI, and this TTM together and see if they can't all join hands and work. So we'll catch you on that next video.